Umhlangano lo tawubanjelwa eThekwini eNingizimu Afrika kubheka ukuthi ingwenyamane baholi badzingidze tindzaba talesifundza letiphatselene nekubumbana kwemalunga enhlangano yakaSADC, ingqubekela phambili nentfutfuko yesifundza kanye nemigomo yalenhlangano. Esikhundleni setindiza bekukathe kunabomake emakhosikazi esilo sigodlo ndvunankulu neliphini lakhe boba betukhulu emabandla ekweluleka tindvuna tembuso kanye nalabanye labakhulu embusweni welive. Etindzabeni kubika pholile maziya anathemba mamba esikhundleni setindiza iKing Mswati III International Airport.
Anze ngwenyama ibese iyafika esifundzeni saKwaZulu-Natal eNingizimu Afrika lapho khona iyawuhlanganyela nalabanye baholi emhlanganweni we-46 webaholi nabahulumende kumave yakaSADC lotawuvulwa namhla ngeMsombuluko. Ingwenyama ifikele edolobheni laseDurban lapho utawubanjelwa khona lo mhlangano isingathwe inkhosikati Makela Fokiyane.
Kuzite ngemgcibelo kusihlwa esikhumulweni setindiza iKing Shaka International Airport kwenyathela ingwenyama yeMaswati singathwe inkhosikati Makela Fokiyane. Ingwenyama kusite uma inyathela kulesikhumulo setindiza yathola ukuthi mengameli waseNingizimu Afrika Cyril Ramaphosa ukhiphe indvuna yetimandi nekuhlandeka Phemi Mawajodina uthi kube ngiyo-ke lemukela silo semhlaba egameni lakhe mengameli kanye nelive laseNingizimu Afrika.
Okay, gentlemen, can you give space here? Can you give space here, please? Can you give space here? Okay, please. Okay, please.
Ingwenyama ilapha eveni laseNingizimu Afrika ngekutawungenela umhlangano wakaSADC lotawukhulumisa ngendzaba letinyenti isibili letfaka ekhatsi leto tindzaba letiphatselene nelikusasa lalenhlangano nekuqiniswa kwetinhlelo tayo. Noma-ke kutawukhulunywa ndzaba tentuthuko naletinye njeke letawendlalwa etafuleni kodwa angeke isale lengaphandle indzaba yekuthi kugcineke kuthula netekuphepha kiwo emavela ngephasi kwayo inhlangano yakaSADC ikakhulu ngoba lokhu kusisekelo sentuthuko lekutawuqinisekisa nokuthi uma ngabe lenhlangano ihlala phasi ihlela inhlelo tayo tigcine tiyafezeka. Lokhu-ke kulandzela ukuthi baholi bemave yakaSADC bathathe isinqumo lesiqinile kokuthi akuphele ukuthi nya kuthathwa kwembuso ngendluzula kumave langaphasi kwayo lenhlangano njengoba lokhu kuyendela phasi futhi kuyibisela emuva. Nokho-ke sekutawuvakala ngelanga langeMsombuluko uma sewuvula lo mhlangano ukuthi baholi bathi yona lenhlangano yakaSADC iphuma ibhekaphi kuya empili. Lobika kwethu indzabeni ngisandile emakhanya nazwela Masuku namxolisi Mavimbela edolobheni leDurban eNingizimu Afrika.
Ingonyama itawubekwa ukuthi ibe ngusihlalo weluphiko lolubuketa indzaba tekugcina kuphepha nekuthula enhlanganweni yaka-SADC, i-SADC Troika. Kanti-ke lokhu kuvakele ngamabhalane lomkhulu kule nhlangano Elias Magosi ngasikhathi kubanjwe umhlangano we-SADC Troika loyingcenye yemihlangano lomkhulu we-46. Lekungumhlangano webaholi nabahulumende bemave yaka-SADC lo tawuvulwa lomuhla. Ingonyama beyikadze imelelwe indvuna yetangephandle nekubambisana nalamanye emave umhlonishwa Polile Shakhantu.
Live la kangwane lihlanganyele nalamanye emave lasesigungwini seliphiko lolubuketa indzaba tekugcina kuthula nekuphepha enhlanganweni emave lasendasini ye-Afrika i-SADC Troika. Lo mhlangano wendvulele umhlangano lomkhulu lotawuvula ngalokusemthethweni ngemsombuluko. Kulo mhlangano ingonyama bemelelwe indvuna yetangephandle nekubambisana nalamanye emave impunga Polile Shakhantu kanti ungenelwe nangamabhalane lomkhulu etiko letekuvikela umbane Nkosi Sicalo nendvuna yetiko letekuhlela umnotho nentuthuko Dr. Tambo Gina. Lo mhlangano ubuke incubekela phambili lebekhona etinhlelweni taka-SADC tekucinisa kuthula nekuphepha kulo mnyaka lowendlulile. Lo mhlangano uphinzwa waba ingqayizivele eveni lakangwane njengobe kubhekeke ukuthi ingonyama ithathe kuba ngusihlalo waloluphiko lolunemsebenzi lomkhulu wokuqinisekisa kugcineka kwekuthula nekuphepha kiso sifundza saka-SADC. Mabhalane lomkhulu kule nhlangano Elias Magosi ubongele ingonyama kulo msebenzi letawuthatha waqinisekisa ukuthi inhlangano yaka-SADC itakuyesekela ngalokuphelele ingonyama.
We likewise extend our warm congratulations to His Majesty the King Mswati III of the Kingdom of Eswatini, who will soon assume the chairpersonship of the SADC organ on politics, defense and security cooperation. We look forward to working closely with His Majesty in advancing our shared objectives of peace, security, democratic governance and regional stability.
Mabhalane lomkhulu uthi isifundza saka-SADC siyaqhubeka nekuba nekusimama kutekuthula ulandzela ukuthi ngeluphiko lwe-SADC Troika lenhlangano ikhonile ekuvikela umsindvo ngekukhulumisana kuhlanganisa labo labangaboni ngasolinye nekubuyisana emaveni lafaka ekhatsi live leMadagascar.
SADC remained actively engaged in supporting dialogue and national reconciliation. Through diplomatic engagements, mediation efforts, and the work of the panel of elders, progress has been made towards constitutional reform, democratic governance, and the restoration of political stability. The planned establishment of a SADC liaison office reflects our continued commitment to supporting these efforts.
Lesekela lamengameli waseMalawi lokungilona live letawundlulisela kuba ngusihlalo we-SADC Troika eveni leSwatini libonge live leSwatini ngekusekela lona live leMalawi emsebentini welikhetfo lebo ubanje eminyakeni lophelile.
I would also like to express our sincere gratitude to the Kingdom of Eswatini for the close cooperation and collaboration during our chairmanship of the organ. As incoming chair, Eswatini was more than ready to step in and serve as chair whenever the situation warranted so. I recall that bare months after joining the Troika as incoming chair, Malawi had general elections. United Arab of Tanzania, the outgoing chair, was also preparing for general elections. Eswatini willingly stepped in to shoulder the responsibility of heading in the election observation in Malawi, a task which was meticulously delivered. They were also able to deploy to subsequent missions in United Arab of Tanzania and Seychelles.
Ingonyama esikhatsini lesiningi uma iphefumulela umhlaba ekhaya iyaye icele isipho sekuthula. Ngekubekwa ibe ngusihlalo itawunikwa emandla ukuthi itibambele mathupha asigaba sekuhlanganisa emave ilethe kuthula kiso sifundza saka-SADC. Lokuba ngusihlalo kwengonyama kutawukwenda nekuthi live leSwatini kubukwe lona etindzabeni tekuletha kuthula kulesifundza nekuqinisa kubambisana kwemave kucatulula tinkinga letingaletha kungevani kuwo emave langephasi kwelenhlangano. Lobika kwetindzabeni ngisandile Makhanya anozwela masuku namcolisi Mavimbela edolobheni leDurban eveni leNingizimu Afrika.
Libandla letelukhetfo nemincele selimemetele mhla tisikhombisa enyangeni yaNovemba kutsi ngulona langa lelitawusetjentiswa kuvotela bucopho lobusha base St Paul's ngaphansi kwenkundla yasemanzini North. Lokhu kulandzela kuhamba emhlabeni kwaloyo lebeka bucopho lisekela lakhomishana kuleli bandla Sipho Tembe uma likhulumisana nebetindzaba landza kabanti ngaleminye yemininingwane lekusentiwa yona-ke emalungiselelo alo lusuku.
Kubusisa kwayo kweingwenyama lomsebenzi kukhomba ngalokusobala umfutho nemdlandla wekusekela kucinisekisa kutsi sive singahlali singenaye lotawusimelela kanye nekuciniseka kutsi imisebenzi yelive iyachubeka kahle. Libandla lendlulisa kulila kakhulu emndenini walona lwashiya nakuto kwetihlobo kanye nakuso sonke sive lesingephansi kwenkundla yasemanzini North ngekulahlekelwa nguloyo lobekathe abucopho eSt Paul's. Libandla liyacinisekisa ke bekunene ukuthi lolu khetho lutaba ngilolukhululekile nalo lusebaleni. Kutaba ke nesigaba sekucala lekusigaba selubhaliso. Sigaba ke lesicala kusasa mhla ka-17 Ingci kuwona lomnyaka siyawuze siphele mhla ka-30 kuyo Ingci kulomnyaka. Lo lubhaliso kolutawucala ekseni ngensimbi yesiphohlongo bekunene kuze kube insimbi yesine Nzambama onke emalanga. Sigaba sesibili kutaba sigaba sekuhlola loluhla lwekubhalisa. Lokho ke kutawukwendeka kusukela ngalesihlanu mhla titine kuyo inyoni ku-2026 kuya kulesihlanu mhla tilishumi nesiphohlongo kuyo inyoni. Sigaba sesithathu kutaba sigaba sekuncoma lesi ke sitawuba ngemgcibelo mhla titintsathu kuyo imphala. Lo msebenzi kutawukwendeka khona esikhungweni la sigaba sivotela khona. Sigaba sesine sigaba sekukhankasa sona ke sicala ngalesithathu mhla tisikhombisa kuyo imphala kulomnyaka kuyaze kube ngulesihlanu mhla tisithupha kuyo inyanga yeLweti. Le kuyawuba sikhathi sekugcina kuyawuba ngu7 Ntsambama noma ke ekuseni. Sigaba lesilandzela ke sekugcina sigaba selilanga lekuvota. Ilanga ke lekuvota kuyoba ngumgcibelo mhla ka7 kuyo inyanga yeLweti 2026.
Kude-ke sidzingo lesikhona ngekwemitsetfo yelive sekuba neluhla lolubili nakubhaliselwa lukhetfo kwehlukaniswe labo labacashile kulabo labatakhamuti. Lena-ke kube ngulenye yetimphendvulo letilethwa libandla letelukhetfo netemincele yetinkhundla emibutweni ngeyesive sakumadonsa.
Sive ngaphansi kwemphakathi wasemnyenyweni sifundiswe kabanti ngetingoni letihlukene telukhetho sase siba nelithuba lekubeka imibono nemibuto kulolu bandla.
Le mithetho nisayiloda ungabe lo uyaloteka lo weSenate ukuthi nangake ukwangena oba nge-MP ungasangeni ukuba ngeSenate. Asimane scope kunawo wabomake lothi ungaba buchopho, ungaba indvuna, ungaba yini wehluleka. Ungaphindze futhi esifundzeni bakukhethe.
Siyesikhethe ilwane i-MP la. La ifika le MP ifika ikhethe labanye bo-MP le. But asibaboni labantu la. Nokusibethe batosisita kancane kude. Kepha bakhethe ngilo MP wethu. Sewunabo 10 years lo muntu ahlala khona la. Sewalamangweni uyahlehla nalamangweni. Sithi lo muntu lo akavoti. Ngendeka kube nihamba na 1000 webantu. Kepha ngalelanga sekukhethwa ndabe sena 500 webantu. Kwakha siphi sithombe even ngoba ngicabanga ukuthi le nombolo elinayo lenisebenzisako la telukhetho inombolo agathi namhlanje ukuthi ayathi.
Labafundisa ngelikhetho ebandleni letelukhetho nemincele yetinkundla balethe timphendvulo.
Kunesigaba lapho khona sikhulumisa i-voters roll validation. I-voters roll validation bongosi ngila sihlakula khona. Nawuhlakula ke usuke uphephisa sivuno sakho. Ngako ke ukoka lokulukhulu.
kusale lokho lokutawenda ukuthi nasowuvuna inyango kwale kona kusiwe umphakathi ngiwo lotawukufakazela ukuthi wena uyakwati i-utility bill ngiyo letakufakazela ukuthi wena uwakhona la emnyenyweni lo ungekho la umphakathi uthi le ndlungulo ayikwati njani nangikhuluma ngendlungulo ngikhuluma ngalamaswati lophila nawo la mangweni
Kuloku ufundiswa kwalamuhla sive sithwele nelusito lwetempilo lolufaka ekhatsi kutihlola kanye nekujovela kuvikela ligciwane i-HIV kubika Mbongwa Dube emnyenyweni kuMadoza.
Usele ulusizi umndeni wakaGametse kumaphungwane ngephansi kwesigodi sasendlalane kulandzela ukuthi ushonelwe ngumkhulu wakhona. Mkhulu-ke kuthiwa utfolakele yashonile emahlathini lathute nemngcele lokwendlulela eMozambique ngetitfuba tensimbi yesiphohlongo ekuseni. Kanti-ke kusolakala ukuthi wahlaselwa ngemakhata.
Mkhulu mefika Gametse kubika ukuthi uvelelwe ngilesihlakalo nje bekabuya eMozambique kuyawungenela umsebenzi wekufihlwa kwemnakabo kuthiwa umufi naye wetsabuka kuleli live labomakhelwane ngekudalwa kepha weta kuleli ngesikhathi sembuso wamadlanga engwenya Absalom Gametse losakhamuti lokungiyena amthola kulamahlathi uchaza ngesimo lamtholeka kuso.
Ikhona ingomo yami lengilahlekele kuleti mvula tona lebe sinato awu ngiphumile impela nginemntukulwane wami nami silandzele emasondlo sahamba sibheke khona emakhuleni ngisite lapha mangijakele khona nje mangithi ngisikhuphu awu ngabona lisaka ngisite mangithi ngiyasonzela mangisonzela lapho ngabona umuntu alele umuntu bekangabonakali ukuthi umuntu wakuphi ngoba bekaguquke amnyama mase sibuka kubonakele lo ukuthi lokuthi afuseke abe mnyama ngulamakhata lebeka khona kulamalanga athi bafana balomnyama mabefika base bathole ID yakhe kulapho la kube setholakala khona lokho ukuthi hayi umefika Gametse lo kwabe ngikhona sibona ke ngoba bekafusekile vele angabonakali.
Sibongile Magongolo sihlobo semufu uyachaza ukuthi umkhulu bekahambe nini waphinze wacela netandla nekufihlwa kwakhe.
Bekushone ebhuti wakhe ke ngale eMozambique wahamba waya ngale eMozambique ayongcwaba mkhulu wakhe uhambe ngalesine wayongcwaba mkhulu wakhe ngemgcibelo wabuya ngalesibili ekseni bathi le wasuka ngabo 2 ekseni kwatholakala ukuthi kunemakhata kunemvula kanti sowukhulile besicela esiveni kuthi loyo lo la ngakhona nje kusita la sita ngakhona ngoba sihluphekile noma ngabe yini nje lokuthi awuvela kuye luhambe ngalesine.
Umcumaniswe emaphoyisa nesive ephindile ezweni uvumile lo mbiko washo ukuthi luphenyo lusacubeka labo labafisa ukubambisa lo mndeni kulesikhathi bangashayela inombolo lethi 76693733 noma 76277353 lo bikako ngumpendulo kumbi kumaphungwane.
Live leSwatini libonakele lihamba embili emidlalweni leminyenti kuma Eswatini National Games lebekathe abanjelwe kwekucala kuleli event laKangwane. Lemidlalo ke beyifaka imidlalo lesiphohlongo kanye nemave lamathathu. Kanti-ke beyidlalelwa etindzaweni letintsatfu enkundleni yesive kasomhlolo i-Olympia Africa kalobamba kanye nasenjabulweni.
Live leSwatini libambe imidlalo ye-Eswatini National Games kwekucala kanti lemidlalo yavulwa indvuna yetemidlalo umhlonishwa Bonganzima ngalesihlanu ebusuku lapho khona live leSwatini belekanye nelive leLesotho kanye neSeychelles kuyo lemidlalo. Lemidlalo iqalile ngemgcibelo yaseyaphethwa ngalo lisonto. Izakhele Dlamini lebekunguye sihlalo lekomiti ledlalisa lemidlalo uthi lemidlalo ikhombe kuba impumelelo ikakhulukazi ukuthi live leSwatini beliyibamba kwekucala.
Kuliqiniso ukuthi sonke isikhathi naso ulandze foreign noma ngathi nje divakashi lethiwa ikhathi njengoba sowushide labo Seychelles nabo Lesotho lesinabo la basibooste kakhulu in terms of competition, though tinombolo tabo betitincane njengoba sathi ukuthi iLesotho ilethe only 10 athletes, and out of lo 10 athletes angibekise njengaka athletics only 2 athletes participated ku athletics. Lesinale lithemba lokuthi next edition nabo batatikhulisa letinombolo, nekusho ukuthi ezisenda lama games lawa akusiyo inhloso kumbe yethu ukuthi sigcine sifake emavela amanengi, because uma sesenda njalo sekudinga ngathi kumbe noma silive noma ke simavela amabili okuLesotho na Eswatini laba organizer lama games seba compete kumbe nabo region 5. So but nje we will always see to it lokho ukuthi now and again siyawathola lawo mavela amabili amathathu langasisida ukuthi aphakamise lizinga kulama athletes ethu.
Kule midlalo umdlalo wematubane bawubanjelwe enkundleni yesive kaSomhlolo kanye nemidlalo wesibhakela lapho khona live leSwatini lihamba embili. E-Olymp Africa kalubamba bekunemidlalo wevolleyball, taekwondo kanye nebasketball nakhona live leSwatini lihamba embili. Bese kuthi enjabulweni kuba nemidlalo yokubhukusha kanti nakhona abadlali bemaswati bahamba embili. Badlali labangenelele imidlalo bang-324 kanzi liqembu lakuleli belakhiwe badlali ababuye etigodzini 13 etakuleli. Lobikako uLinda Dlamini na Fabrice Msonera kalubamba.
Sitawubuka simo selitulu bese sibahlola emakethe sitawubuya sixoxisane nemchumanisi wembube nesive.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Asibenze sinemukele siyakuvusela kumsombuluko ekuseni sinemchumanisi wamaphoyisa nesive ephindile zwane sifuna kuva ukuthi impela somvo ihambe kanjani. Asikuvusele phiko lomhla ekseni uthini umbiko walamhla ekseni?
Sivusele Thombeni, siyavusela kuso sonke isive sakangwane namhla ekseni. Sifisela wonke umuntu liviki lelihle nekuchubeka kuthembisa sive ukuthi singemaphoyisa sitawuchubeka kusebenzisana naso sive ngelithandvo lelingenamkhawulo lekungiyona team lesihamba ngayo kulamalanga. Sibuka impelasonto dzadzewetfu lapho khona kube nebantfu lababoshwako ngekucala lobehlukehlukene lokufaka ekhatsi emadvodza lamabili lapha esiteki laboshelwe kutfolakala netibhamu netinhlavu letingekho emtsetfweni kanye namakelo neminyaka lengu-67 naye lotfolakele anesibhamu. Nasilandzela-ke kule ndzaba le sitfole ukuthi kunebantfu lotfola ukuthi kunetibhamu labatiphethe le ikhona mhlambe imvume yalesibhamu kepha ayisiyo yalo muntu losiphethe ngaleso sikhathi le kuba licala ke emthethweni laba ke bekunene batawubhekana nalamacala abo namhlanje ngalokho batawuvela enkantolo siyasikhuthatha sive ukuthi asingabolekisi ngetibhamu nangabe sekwentekile umnikati wesibhamu noma lona license ashiya emhlabeni sibhamu leso asibiselwe emaphoyiseni kwenziwe le procedure lefanele ataseluleka emaphoyisa ithi kuhanjwa diphi ingoni kuze ukuthi ugcine nawe unemvume yaleso sibhamu siyawube sesiyabiyela ke ekhaya sithathwa ngiloyo lofanele ngakulokunye ke sibona tingoti temgwaqo tiyaqhubeka njengaloku sibe nato letimbili namhla ekuseni letenteke itolo lapho khona kube nebantu labalimalako noko siyabonga ukuthi kude losishile emhlabeni kuto leti tingoti siphinde sibona nendzaba yekureyishwa kwebantu nekugagadlelwa kwebantu leyo umuntu angaphinza aqhubeke kugcizelela esiveni lamanye alamacala lawo walesiwabona kukhanza ukuthi bantwana labaneminyaka lengu-16 noma lengu-17 ebudzala umuntu bese ucabanga ukuthi sowukhulile loyo mfana kulokunye ke vele ukhanza ukuthi kuyavunyelwana ngalokuthi kutawulalwa siyacela ukuthi sive asikwati kokuthi umfana loneminyaka leto tigaba leto noma bekangavuma yena ngemthetho usuke angikavumi mhlambe singagcina ngakokucela tihlobo tanhlanhla wakalanga lakhilanga lolapha kalobamba epolice station lothi makwakhe wakavilane noma wakagule lekungu-Rosemary ukuthi akavele solo uhleli umvwenkhosi wabuya ngale South Africa atowufuna tona tihlobo takhe siyathemba ukuthi utawusitakala labatfolakele-ke bangale kwemthetho esigabeni zekushayela timoto lobadzakiwe babe ngu-130 kule mpelasonto lesibuyile solo siyakhuthatha i-7 ukuthi asingalokothi sishayele timoto lo noma-ke sihlale nje steringini semotolo nangabe sesithethathethe lokudzakisako kwanoma ngangiluphi lihlobo loko kuyoba licala kithi siyafisela wonke umuntu liviki lelihle siyabonga kakhulu Thombeni.
Sibonga kakhulu nakuwe Phiko nguphiko loyo phindikezwana siniketa nje i-update ye-police report yangempelasonto ukuva ukuthi dithini tikigaba letibikiwe emaphoyiseni this past weekend. We go for an ad break nasibuya sita kuchubeka nalohlelo.
bayethe wena phakathi silo sikhulu singemaswati sikubonile uhlele esihlalweni sebukhosi iminyaka lengama-40 ngako ke sicela sibonga umdali ngawe ngoba kulama-40 sibone intuthuko lenkulu kakhulu eSwatini sibone usakhela i-constitution sabona uqinisa kundlela lesibusa ngayo singemaswati tinkhundla letinkhundla utibhice nebuntu bethu nesilungu siphinze sibonge silo sikhulu kwekuthi usakhele ebuhlobo ngaphandle lapho sibone khona la banye baholi bahlukubeteka kepha wena ngekuthi uyinkosi yemhlaba wabathatha labo baholi wabafaka esiswini sakho sithi silo sikhulu sifisa konke lokufisile ngalelive lakho uchubeke ukhule ezukhula nawe nathi singemaswati sikhule kanye nawe ngendlela lophethe ngayo losithandza ngayo sonke singemaswati ungabalibala lemuntu sithi silo sikhulu nathi sikuthandza ngayo le ndlela siyathandaza uNkulunkulu ukuthi akunike lo munye 40 years noma ngetulu ngoba siyakudzinga bayethe wena phakathi.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents, and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.sz or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We continue with our program. This year's Super El Niño is already taking a heavy toll, from erratic rains in India to intense heat in Europe. Weather extremes are threatening crops, supply chains, and energy sources and human life. As the world grapples with rising temperatures tied to global warming, this year may be a preview of how bad it will get in the not too distant future.
The cyclical weather phenomenon known as El Niño has returned.
Wildfires in Europe.
More than 300,000 people have fled their homes in France and Spain.
Catastrophic flooding in India, or even New York City. Weather extremes in our world are becoming more frequent.
So scientists are worried about this El Niño for two reasons. One is the scale of this El Niño. It's perhaps the biggest they have seen in recent history, and when it is coming, which is in a world that is already 1.4 degrees Celsius hotter as a result of human-caused climate change.
El Niño doesn't roll around that often, so it's difficult to totally anticipate what the effects will be. But this has the potential to be a historic event in terms of its power.
The economic toll this El Niño will take may not be known for years to come, but looking into the past gives us some ideas.
In our daily lives, the oceans play a crucial role. They can drive our climate and our weather. El Niño taught us all about that.
The El Niño that ended in 1998 had a major effect on global economies. The damage was about $5.7 trillion. It rippled for 5 years after the event ended. Losses from the 2015-2016 El Niño also ran into the trillions, and kind of forecasting suggests we'll see that again.
El Niño is a natural phenomenon. It's to do with an oscillation that happens in the Pacific Ocean.
There's this naturally occurring cycle in the Pacific Ocean where it warms up, it cools down. La Niña is the cool phase, El Niño is the hot phase.
How these phases are identified is by measuring sea surface temperatures in a region of the equatorial Pacific. And when sea surface temperatures go above 0.5 degrees Celsius above normal, that's when an El Niño is declared.
You can see here sea surface temperature readings taken from this area of the Pacific known as the 3.4 region. The red line shows 2026 temperatures are higher going into the fall than the last El Niño in 2023. And when compared to the average temperatures between 1991 and 2020, it's clear the oceans are warming up.
What's different with this El Niño is that we're not just looking at sea surface temperatures, we're also looking at water temperatures beneath the surface.
This El Niño is predicted to warm the Pacific more than 2 degrees Celsius by the end of the year. And that may not sound like a lot, but that's a lot of extra energy stored in the ocean.
This will act as a battery that will not only fuel heat transport, but also evaporative potential. And that is going to fuel how strong the impact of this El Niño could be.
This climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion.
Climate change is essentially the response to the additional greenhouse gases that us humans are putting into the atmosphere by burning fossil fuels. And what that does is it increases the average temperature of the entire globe. A lot of that increase in heat is actually absorbed by the ocean.
El Niño is not caused by climate change, but it certainly is affected by it.
The world is already 1.4 degrees Celsius hotter than the pre-industrial period, on top of which, when an El Niño comes, you get an increase of 0.2 or 0.3 degrees Celsius of warming.
If we track global temperature variations since 1950 versus the pre-industrial era, this is what we see. The orange line is the long-term human-caused warming. El Niño years, shown in red, push global temperatures up, while the blue La Niña years pull it down. But the constant upward trend of global temperatures means the starting point for these variations is elevated.
And that means the extreme weather events that we are seeing around the world already, which could be a heat wave, it could be a wildfire, could be a flood, becomes just that much more extreme.
Many climate scientists are saying this El Niño could be a sneak peek into our future. And if you've been traveling to Europe recently, you'll understand exactly what this means.
A state of emergency in Western Europe was described as apocalyptic fires.
There are fears that a temperature surge could make the fires worse.
By 2027, which is now expected to be the hottest year ever, it might be giving us a flavor, just a flavor, of what life in current trajectory of climate change could look like in 2035.
Predicting the future can be risky business, but this El Niño is already well underway.
India is seeing its worst monsoon since the last El Niño.
Rainfall in the region has been erratic. India had its 5th driest June on record, only to be followed up by a massive flood in July, dumping a month's worth of precipitation in a single week.
India still depends hugely on agriculture for its economy, and monsoon is the main driver of that agricultural economy.
Extreme versions of El Niño's wet and dry zones radiating from the equator threaten crops around the globe.
Western Africa, it's a hot spot for cocoa production. We're already seeing impacts on cocoa growth and yield. This is going to impact pricing going into 2027, and you could start to see some quality issues.
This means your chocolate bar or hot cocoa this winter could cost more. The El Niño event of 23 and 2024 caused multiple spikes in cocoa costs that have only recently come down. And in Somalia, communities are bracing for the currently dry conditions to give way to the type of torrential flooding that occurred in the last El Niño.
2023, it was devastating. This bridge is connected from this village to the town, and the water rise above it. There is people who was not getting food, water, and essential. This super El Niño might be one of the biggest, bigger than in 2023 and 1997.
Okay, waxaa laga yaabaa wigi in maarta uu soo baxo banaanka uu soo baxo outki only normal waxa waaye halkaan uu maarta tagay 1 meter laakiin markii uu maarta normal oo ahayn waxa waaye in uu outko baxa laga yaabaa banaanka biyaha ilaa 3.5 4 meter in outke u baxan ay saameeyaan farms.
A lot of the impacts that come from an El Nino happen within the tropics. The places where you have the most productive agricultural land typically, and the most number of people who rely on agriculture for their income and of course for their own food.
Food security and agricultural losses also ripple through supply chains, making local issues global.
El Nino can lead to lower rainfall in places like Panama.
We have a global interconnected supply chain, and so major weather disruptions can actually wreak a lot of havoc.
Traffic through the Panama Canal plunged in 2024 due to drought during the last El Nino. And this year, the Canal Authority is already taking measures to conserve water with cargo limits, citing the same issue.
El Nino is a global hydro story, which is often missed when everyone is focusing on global temperatures. Trade routes in the Panama Canal will impact flows of LNG, liquid natural gas, and in turn, our energy prices. That's where we could see the impacts on our wallets the most.
There's a recent study in the journal Science which found that the 1982-83 El Nino had long-term impacts of decreasing economic productivity of the world by $4.1 trillion. A similar analysis for 97-98 led to $5.7 trillion of economic damages to the planet. The more recent El Niños are expected to cost even more in the trillions of dollars.
So while El Nino is hitting localities in different ways, the costs are sure to be widespread.
El Nino doesn't care about what's going on between countries, and it doesn't care about our peace deals, and it doesn't care about the geopolitical situation or how bad inflation has already gotten. It does what it wants, it arrives on its own schedule, and it often arrives at a time that is not great given, other events playing out all around the planet.
Rising youth unemployment in India has sparked the student-led cockroach movement, which has managed to oust a cabinet minister while presenting a growing challenge to Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
For over a decade, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his party have dominated Indian politics.
Narendra Modi secures a third term.
Modi's BJP wins control of the Indian capital.
But that dominant political vehicle hit a bit of a roadblock.
The police has barricaded the street and put internet jammers in place.
In total, there would have been tens of thousands of protesters converging on the parliament.
And it went on for weeks, but was triggered by an internet meme featuring, well, look.
कॉकरोच की सरकार बनाना युवा को रोजगार मिलेगा अब बदलेगा देश का सिस्टम
Cockroach movement. That's a rather weird name for a popular movement, isn't it?
It is, particularly considering that anger isn't directed at the government's pest control record, but its education department and some recent exam scandals.
The unemployment situation in India is fairly grim. These degrees, diplomas and certificates are not enough.
In late July, the movement scored a win.
The country's education minister has resigned after protests over exam paper leaks.
Toppling a minister, though, doesn't fix a youth job crisis that's only being compounded by artificial intelligence. With major elections looming, Modi isn't just fighting political rivals now. He's facing a threat to India's status quo, marching under the banner of a six-legged mascot. So, how does a political movement come to be likened to a cockroach?
Well, the story is that the Chief Justice of India made a comment about the legal profession, how unemployed youth, they were parasites, and so on. An important state functionary is telling that, look, you guys are no good, you are cockroaches.
You are about to do something very big in this country, and that is going to change the country's political history forever.
Abhijit Deepke, who was then finishing a graduate degree in the United States, created an internet meme using some AI tools. That meme went viral, and within 24 hours, we had something called the Cockroach Janata Party or the Cockroach People's Party.
मैं कॉकरोच हूँ, हर टूटे सिस्टम में सरवाइव कर जाता।
बीमार होने पर भी छुट्टी नहीं मिलती।
This resonated with many of the 367 million young Indians who make up both the world's largest youth population and a third of India's entire workforce.
The politicians of this country for long years have been talking about the demographic dividend, how we need to capitalize on this extremely young labor force.
Although it's the world's fastest growing major economy, for young Indians, education doesn't guarantee a secure job. And here's why. In 1983, India was home to about 4.8 million young graduates. Over 4 decades, that total swelled 13-fold to 63 million. But job creation hasn't kept pace. Over the same period, the number of graduates left without work grew even faster, from fewer than 1 million to 11 million, a 16-fold increase. Basically, there's a glut of graduates, fueled by a proliferation of private and technical colleges.
It's become a common sight to see long queues of youth at job fairs, thousands of applicants applying for just a handful of jobs. The problem really is that kids are spending millions of rupees on education, but they're not getting the required skill sets.
They are feeling the pinch of AI, government policies, and the Indian education system can be a sort of pressure cooker environment.
Against this background, it didn't take much for a movement to emerge.
Not even in my wildest dreams, I would have imagined this.
Since being formed in May, the mock political party amassed nearly 27 million Instagram followers, many of whom showed up on the streets of India. Apart from that comment from a Chief Justice, what rallied them was a series of administrative errors. Authorities cancelled the country's medical entrance exam after the question paper was leaked, and 2.2 million candidates were affected. And around the same time, thousands of students complained of mistakes in one of India's largest graduate examinations. Young people had had enough and demanded accountability.
So the cockroach movement chose to target the education minister, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, and demanded his resignation.
You have all of these different vectors, pointing towards this mounting frustration, and then suddenly they all become politically aware.
Tens of thousands of protesters marched on the Indian Parliament in New Delhi. No police permission was granted, and as the crowd closed in on the Parliament gates, authorities responded with canes and tear gas.
सरकार को ही संदेश देता हम लोग काकरोच नहीं है, हम लोग शिक्षा के लिए प्रति जागरूक हैं, हम शिक्षित हम लोग हैं, अनपढ़ अंगूठा छाप नहीं है हम लोग.
I saw it in the street. They were so frustrated that they stood there and they took the batons on their bodies. This was a stunning thing to watch.
In a rare move, Prime Minister Modi, whose tactic is typically to float above the fray, posted a series of videos in a bid to quell the rising anger.
फ्रेंच विद्यार्थियों के भविष्य के लिए भारत सरकार लगातार अनेकविध कदम उठा रही है.
And by the end of the week, Pradhan resigned. The CJP had achieved something remarkable. This was the first time since Modi took power in 2014 that one of his cabinet ministers had resigned under public pressure. The government also promised stricter penalties for exam fraud and announced a task force to overhaul national tests. But unfortunately, India's underlying problems remain. Out of every 100 young Indian graduates, 50 are employed in some form. But only 26 of these hold regular salaried roles, as opposed to being self-employed or in casual work, for instance. And among those 26, only 4 have a written contract, paid leave, and social security benefits.
You may have the diplomas, the certificates, the degrees, but they are not giving you the kind of skills that you need to enter into the job market.
You get to a point where there's a large mass of people, some of them actual graduates who have failed to find jobs, who have thrown themselves into the inferno of gig work. They work 8 to 10 hours a day. They make 500 to 700 rupees a day.
That's about $5 to $8. So this isn't just even about a lack of jobs, but poor wage prospects. After peaking in 2012, India's male graduates have seen their average monthly salaries decline. Female graduates have gradually closed the gap. But across the board, the picture is one of wages having stagnated. India's youth aren't alone. From Nepal to Bangladesh and Indonesia, youth-led unrest is rattling governments across Asia, fueled by anger over inequality, corruption, and widespread unemployment, the very issues Modi promised to fix.
8 million graduates enter the workforce every year in India, and the path that was available to their parents, finding a decent job, stepping into the middle class, eventually buying a house and then living in it for the rest of your life, is simply not available.
Next year, Modi's party faces a key election in Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, where youth unemployment is a major concern.
This is a huge crisis with very many layers attached to it. At almost every economic aspect, the youth of the country feels like they're being robbed of the opportunities.
For India to be able to get to a developed status by 2047, the country will have to consistently grow between 8 to 9% for the next 25 years. It will have to create enough jobs for its workforce and has to make sure that the workforce is also able to increase their incomes in a way that India retains its spot as the big demand center for the world.
The cockroach has become some sort of a symbol for survival. Survival of people who are fighting very long odds in an environment of deep-seated corruption and bureaucratic apathy at a level that is hard to understand if you've not been to India.
All right, we go for an ad break. We come back with our international news.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhiqiza lokuthembile.
Welcome back, and now for international news. The Ebola outbreak in Eastern DR Congo is now the second largest on record, with more than 2,100 deaths and the virus spreading to a sixth province. Health workers are struggling to contain the rapidly growing outbreak amid community resistance, misinformation, unpaid staff strikes, and threats from rebel groups.
With one death every 30 minutes, the Ebola outbreak in Eastern DRC is now the fastest growing on record.
It's already the second biggest Ebola epidemic on record. At its current pace, it's on track to eclipse the West African Ebola outbreak of 2014 to 2016.
Ebola has now spread into a sixth province in the DRC. The virus is outpacing national and international response efforts as emergency operations deal with incredibly difficult conditions. Health officials face resistance from some local communities, meaning they have fallen behind with contact tracing.
To defeat an Ebola outbreak, we need to have the community on board, and at the moment, that's not the case. It's difficult work that needs to be done to ensure the community is informed, on board, willing to report cases and carry out dignified and safe burials.
Health organisations are working to ensure they gain support within local communities in the hopes that more people will collaborate with contact tracing operations and prevention measures.
At first, it wasn't easy, but now I don't think as many people avoid coming in for treatment. But it is still very challenging. Our treatment center here only has 80 beds.
Over 2,100 people have died of Ebola, nearly 47% of those who have been infected.
At least 47 people have been killed after a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Indonesia, triggering hundreds of aftershocks, widespread destruction and landslides. Rescue operations are underway as remote villages remain difficult to reach and the death toll is expected to rise.
There's a trail of damage and destruction in Indonesia after a deadly 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck the eastern Flores region early Saturday morning.
The sound was loud, thunderous. I thought someone was waking me up, and when I woke up, it was an earthquake. We went outside. The sound got louder. I've never felt an earthquake like this.
The powerful tremor forced this hospital to evacuate. Some walls in the building collapsed, scattering supplies and medicines everywhere. Patients must receive treatment in makeshift tents outside.
I think the situation right now is very worrying. You can see for yourself how the patients here are having to sleep in these conditions. It is cold and it was raining earlier.
I was about to take a shower and get ready for work when the earthquake suddenly struck. My grandchild was outside, so I ran to save them. I shielded my grandchild under my stomach, and I was the one who was hit when the house collapsed.
Authorities said dozens of residents were injured and warned that the death toll would almost certainly rise due to landslides cutting off remote villages. The epicenter was 68 kilometers north-northwest of the city of Enda in East Nusa Tenggara province. The province is made up of many islands, presenting significant transportation and access challenges.
Hawaii has narrowly avoided a historic direct hit from Hurricane Lala, but torrential rain and hurricane-force winds are still causing widespread flooding, mudslides, and power outages across the island. Authorities are urging residents to shelter in place as the storm moves west and dangerous conditions persist.
Hawaii has spared itself a historic direct hit after Hurricane Lala skirted past the Big Island's southern tip without making landfall. However, officials warn danger is far from over. Torrential rain and hurricane-force winds continue to trigger severe flooding and life-threatening mudslides.
We have $100 million set aside thanks to the legislature from the Major Disaster Fund, and that means if we need resources quickly, we can get them instantly.
Higher elevations could see up to 60 centimeters of rainfall, turning roads into rivers and leaving more than 40,000 citizens without power across the region. As dangerous conditions spread, state authorities are urging everyone to stay off the roads.
Be very careful. I think there is going to be a lot of debris on the roads, but we have all the personnel out there that we need. But people should be sheltering in place now, especially as the storm comes through Big Island and Maui.
Tropical storm warnings remain in effect for 8 Hawaiian islands, including Maui, as the storm moves west. Residents across the island are now stocking up on fuel, power generators and emergency supplies as they wait out the storm.
Belgium is battling what has been described as the country's largest wildfire in modern history, forcing hundreds of villagers to evacuate near the German border. Firefighters, EU reinforcements and local farmers are working to contain the blaze as shifting winds and extreme heat complicate efforts.
It's been described as the largest wildfire in Belgium's modern history. In the High Fens Park, one of the country's oldest nature reserves near the German border, hundreds of villagers were under evacuation orders as a precautionary measure, given the blaze's very quick spread.
There are a lot of emotions welling up right now, simply because it's unbelievable that we've never been through this before. And this is the first time. There's a lot of sadness, too, at leaving our home.
You can't put it into words. It's the smell, the smoke. You can see it's thick and opaque.
Changing winds complicated efforts to fight the blaze, but Belgium quickly activated the European Union's civil protection mechanism. Reinforcements came in the form of helicopters and water bombers coming in from the bloc. Local farmers also stepped in to assist.
I think that's the word, shocked, and at the same time grateful for all the work that's being done. You can see the farmers here driving around to spray water to stop it from spreading, but it's very striking.
Belgium is one of several European countries affected by huge wildfires. This blaze is only a few dozen kilometres from another major one in neighbouring Germany. Intense heat waves made worse by climate change have been sweltering much of the continent this summer.
Firefighters in southwestern France are continuing to battle a wildfire that has burned 1,700 hectares of forest in the Lanes region. The blaze has stopped spreading but remains out of control, with 550 firefighters, military personnel and 6 water bombing aircraft working to contain it and allow evacuated residents to return home.
For the third night in a row, firefighters battle with flames in the Landes forest of southwestern France. According to the Landes prefect, the fire is not yet under control, but it has stopped spreading, a result of tireless efforts by the 550 firefighters on the ground, backed up by the military.
The goal is to continue creating fire breaks, to anticipate any potential spreading of the fire in advance, and to facilitate the access for the firefighters.
4 Canadair and 2 Dash aircrafts have also been taking turns, dropping water and fire retardants on the blaze. Authorities hope evacuated residents will be able to return to their homes as soon as possible.
This will happen as soon as we are certain people can return to their homes unharmed, without danger, via roads that have been made safe.
Since Thursday, the fire has burned through 1,700 hectares of forest.
France's Constitutional Court has struck down a law that would have banned children under 15 from social media, ruling that it disproportionately infringed on freedom of expression and raised privacy concerns over age verification. The government plans to draft a revised bill, with Emmanuel Macron citing concerns over the impact of social media on children's mental and physical health.
As the start of the new school year approaches, French children and teenagers will still be able to access social media after all. Though they may be relieved, many of their parents are not.
Social media leads to all sorts of problems, including bullying.
There are negative effects, time wasted and lack of sleep.
A law struck down by the Constitutional Council on Friday had sought to ban those under 15 from social media apps and certain video games. The council deemed this a disproportionate infringement on freedom of expression and communication, and voiced concerns about the potential impact on privacy of introducing an age verification system for all users.
This is a systemic issue which we should all tackle together, rather than singling out or discriminating one section of the population. The issue of social media addiction affects everyone, so minors may feel discriminated against if they are banned from social media, but others, like their parents, are not.
Emmanuel Macron has tasked his Prime Minister with drafting a revised bill, citing public health concerns.
We are putting the mental and physical health of children and adolescents at risk. We know this.
The French government now hopes to have a new legislation in place by next spring.
Italian authorities have recovered 3 paintings by Renoir, Cézanne and Matisse worth more than £9 million months after they were stolen from a private museum near Parma. 5 Moldovan suspects have been detained, with police saying the gang had carefully planned the heist and was equipped to disable the museum's security systems.
Video footage released by Italian police shows two thieves entering the Magnani Rocca Foundation Museum near Parma in northern Italy. After breaking through a window, they headed into a room where they took 3 paintings off the wall and passed them to an accomplice waiting outside. That was back in March. The 3 artworks that have been recovered have a combined value of more than 9 million euros. They are a painting by Cézanne called Still Life with Cherries, one by Renoir called Fish, and Matisse's Odalisque on the Terrace.
This is a gang specializing in theft. They are professionals. You've seen the footage at the Magnani Rocca Foundation, where they'd even organized a diversion using a fire extinguisher. They also had devices to disable the alarms. They'd mapped out their escape routes.
The paintings were discovered in the possession of one of the suspects during searches. 5 Moldovan citizens have been taken into custody and are accused of criminal conspiracy to commit theft. One local official said the discovery was a relief after months of uncertainty.
We have moved past the disbelief and bitterness we felt when we first heard the news of the theft. Today, those feelings have been replaced by immense joy and satisfaction.
The crime followed a series of high-profile thefts at major European museums, including the one in October last year, of French crown jewels and other items valued at 88 million euros from the Louvre in Paris.
Luigi has pleaded guilty to federal stalking charges and admitted killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York in December 2024. His lawyers are seeking to have the state charges dropped under New York's double jeopardy protections, while prosecutors plan to seek a life sentence at his December sentencing.
It was a murder that shook corporate America when a US health insurance CEO was gunned down in full view on a New York street in 2024. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing Brian Thompson, pled guilty to federal stalking charges and admitted to shooting him dead. In a court on Friday, Mangione said he made a gun with a 3D printer and posed as an investor to get information on a conference Brian Thompson was going to be attending. He then trailed the United Healthcare boss and pulled the trigger, setting off a huge manhunt. Mangione's lawyers argue that their client has accepted full responsibility for Brian Thompson's death, and in light of his guilty plea, he should not face both state and federal charges.
New York law does not permit a person to be prosecuted and punished twice for the exact same crime under a statute that governs successive prosecutions. It's also known as the double jeopardy law. Today's guilty plea triggers this statute, and we just filed our motion in state court explaining why the state charges must be dismissed under New York's double jeopardy protections.
Federal prosecutors didn't give Mangione any deal or incentive to plead guilty. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which is handling the state prosecution, said it will contest the defence's efforts to shut it down. Mangione said his aim was to make healthcare work better for everyone after suffering a back injury. The case has been very polarising in the US regarding the state of the country's privatised health insurance system, with some even praising Mangione.
No grievance, political belief, or ideological cause can ever justify murder. There can be no celebrity in assassination. Any person who celebrates, encourages, or excuses actions like these is fundamentally wrong.
Prosecutors plan to seek a life prison term during sentencing on the 18th of December.
Brazil's October presidential election is shaping up as another battle between the Lula and Bolsonaro camps, with incumbent Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva seeking a 4th term and Flavio Bolsonaro stepping in for his imprisoned father.
It's the same names for the 3rd time running. Lula and Bolsonaro, both candidates for Brazil's presidential poll coming up in October. But with one slight adjustment. With Jair Bolsonaro behind bars, his son Flavio has taken his place. Incumbent President Lula's campaign will focus heavily on sovereignty amid escalating tensions with Washington after Donald Trump announced astronomical tariffs on hundreds of Brazilian exports.
Eu quero
I want to maintain a good relationship with the United States. I don't want any fight. Unfortunately, they are spreading falsehoods against Brazil. Yesterday, we invoked the reciprocity law to show that we are not to be taken lightly. We have self-respect.
Lula has presided over low unemployment, high growth and decreasing deforestation of the Amazon, but is increasingly isolated in South America after Colombia and Chile's left-leaning leaders were replaced by far-right Trump loyalists, and US forces captured and removed Nicolas Maduro. Meanwhile, Bolsonaro Jr., a serving senator, enjoys the support of leaders like Argentinian Javier Milei, promising to bring down a high deficit and be tough on crime, leaning heavily on his father's popularity.
I guarantee to all of you, they will not intimidate us, because I may be calmer, smile more, and appear more peaceful and moderate, but right here runs Bolsonaro blood.
The Bolsonaros are also loyal to President Trump, with one brother even vocally supporting one wave of tariffs against Brazil last year. Both candidates have scandals in their past and present, though. Bolsonaro Jr. faces questions over his financial relationship with a banker accused of fraud, while Lula's son is under investigation for perhaps using his political influence to benefit friends. The two men are close in the polls 6 weeks before voting, but are the clear frontrunners ahead of 3 other minority candidates.
Posts claiming the Morocco-Ceuta border would open for Spain's Assumption holiday have prompted migrants to gather near the crossing. Moroccan and Spanish authorities have tightened security after a recent mass influx into Ceuta, while Morocco says those spreading the false claims could face legal action.
Small groups of migrants from Morocco and Sudan gather near the Moroccan border with the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. They are responding to calls on social media to cross into the Spanish territory, some of which falsely claim that the entry point would be open on the 15th, a holiday in Spain. On Thursday, the Spanish foreign minister issued a stern warning to those who would attempt to enter its territory on the African continent illegally.
No one will be allowed to stay in Ceuta. None of them will be allowed to go to the mainland. None of them will be granted legal status, not a single one of them. All they're doing is risking their lives, with the exception of those very rare cases of extreme vulnerability.
For its part, Moroccan authorities bolstered security measures near the point of entry with barbed wire and an increased police presence. According to Spanish authorities, almost 80,000 migrants crossed the border from Morocco to Ceuta between July 29th and the 31st, both on foot and by sea. More than 80 died in the attempted crossing. And according to Madrid, the majority of the migrants were returned to Morocco in the following week, though many, including hundreds of unaccompanied minors, remain. An untenable situation for the president of the enclave.
Action must be taken immediately. We must return to Morocco all those who entered our city illegally on the 30th of July as part of a mass influx and who still remain here.
Though it remains unclear who is behind the posts, the Moroccan Interior Ministry said that those spreading the calls to cross would be subject to legal proceedings, and that a group of suspects had already been summoned for investigation.
Morocco has deployed heavy security around the border city of Findek after false social media rumors claimed the border to Spain's Ceuta enclave would open.
These migrants, most of whom are from sub-Saharan Africa, have gathered on a hill located just kilometers from the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. They are faced with a considerable police presence who have strict orders: disperse the groups through the use of force if necessary. Both Spanish and Moroccan authorities have been on high alert since rumors started spreading across social media platforms saying that the land border between the two countries would be open on the 15th, with some posts encouraging crossing. Inside the enclave, this young Moroccan immigrant claims to know the methods of the mass crossings.
This was planned. They choose a day, meet in Fnatic, and then enter, launching the assaults all at once.
Rabat has said that those responsible for spreading the rumors will be brought to justice and that arrests have already been made. Moroccan authorities also said that they have bolstered security measures in advance of the date, to counter any new attempts at a mass crossing into the Spanish enclave. Some residents of the Moroccan border city admire the setup.
Morocco has put up a new fence, which is a good thing because it serves Morocco's interests. It will prevent the problems we're facing from getting worse.
While others voice concern for the migrants, who are mostly young men.
We need to find solutions for these young people because the situation is very difficult, especially for young children and women.
In late July, in under 48 hours, between 70 and 80,000 migrants crossed the border into Ceuta. Although the majority were returned, the event shook European relations, even causing a diplomatic spat between Spain and Italy. According to several NGOs, an estimated minimum of 141 people died in the mass crossing.
At least 11 people, including 3 children, have been killed in Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon, according to Lebanon's state news agency, in the deadliest attacks since a U.S.-mediated peace framework was agreed in June.
Mohammed surveys his damaged chalet, hours after Israeli strikes targeted the region of Ansar. The attacks killed several, including multiple children.
It's a small holiday resort. There's a swimming pool, a small amusement park for children, and some guest rooms. I look forward to it all year round so I can enjoy it during these 3 months. I want the whole Arab world to hear this. What do I have here to deserve all this?
Another resident recalls the moment of the bombs.
I was praying and suddenly the strike took place at 4:30 a.m. We asked what happened. We were hearing aircraft in the sky.
In addition to the strikes around Ansar, the IDF also attacked Deir Zahrani, resulting in more rubble and death. A military spokesperson for Israel said that the attacks targeted Hezbollah infrastructure and that they were in response to the Iran-aligned militant group committing a serious breach of a peace framework agreement. The Lebanese prime minister rejected the accusations, saying that those killed in Ansar were not military infrastructure. The attack was the deadliest since Lebanon agreed to the U.S.-mediated peace framework with Israel in June. Conditions of the accord include a disarmament of Hezbollah, a progressive withdrawal of the IDF from the southern Lebanese territory seized during Israel's war with the Iran-aligned group, and the deployment of the Lebanese army in the region. Hezbollah's chief rejected the agreement on Friday, saying it was a humiliating mistake that undermines Lebanese sovereignty. Since March 2nd, over 4,300 people have been killed in the hostilities.
Several Palestinian homes in the West Bank village of Kusile have been under siege for a week, with families trapped inside as supplies dwindle and water and electricity are cut off.
We are in our besieged house and have been under siege for the last 7 days. The soldiers are stationed at my brother Yusuf's house nearby. They keep screaming and singing all day. Thank God we have all this food.
In this neighborhood of Kusile, Israeli settlers have residents under blockade, unable to leave their homes as supplies dwindle. Settlers have even cut off the water and electricity to certain houses.
We went there to fix the water and electricity, accompanied by the army, and then we were attacked by 40 to 50 armed men. The army couldn't control them or do anything. We were assaulted and beaten. It was humiliating. We were in a very bad situation.
The Israeli army were deployed on Thursday amid international outcry and following pressure from Washington. But for locals, their presence seems little more than symbolic.
The settlers suddenly appeared out of nowhere and attacked us. We had to run away, especially with the army present. If we tried to resist, we might be interrogated or arrested.
He says that he watched settlers shoot and kill his nephew 5 months ago. And the wall outside his house now reads, in Hebrew, "Death to Arabs." The settlements are a violation of international law and often go against Israeli law too. But Tel Aviv frequently legalizes them retroactively once established. Israel Katz announced on Friday a plan to transfer the duties of the army in the West Bank to Israeli police, a move which would take Israeli hold over the Palestinian territory from occupation to annexation. Events in Kusra have drawn criticism from within Israel and abroad, with Washington calling on Prime Minister Netanyahu on Friday to condemn the actions of the settlers.
All right, and that marks the end of our international news. Thank you for staying with us. It's 28 minutes after 7. After the break, we speak to FNB.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
aba-researche bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhicita ngokusendile.
All right, welcome back to the program. We did promise you when we started the show that we will reflect on the FNB Eswatini challenge that we watched this past weekend. You will remember that it was interrupted a little bit by the rains, but they persevered through that, and God was great. And the tournament eventually eventuated, and indeed it attracted a record of 12 sponsors this year, and also saw the introduction of what they call the FNB Eswatini Junior Golf Day. Let's get in conversation now and just understand the perspective of FNB Eswatini Chief Marketing Officer Kusile Dlamini. Before speaking to the local professional that side, Brendan Rennie, who finished among the top pros there, FNB Eswatini Challenge 2026. Congratulations, Sibu. A very, very beautiful success, wasn't it?
Thank you so much, Mguni. A beautiful way to end the challenge. As you mentioned, we did kick off on quite a slippery slope there with the rains on Monday, Tuesday. But God being God, Wednesday we saw some sun and we officially kicked off the FNB Eswatini Challenge. As mentioned, we had over 100 golfers, pro golfers from across the globe, including 15 local golfers. Brandon, part of the results. So really kicked off very well, kicked off on a high, and I do note that true to the theme of this year, Rise to the Challenge, I do believe every golfer rose to the challenge indeed, and it's telling also in the scores. And I think also what really warmed our hearts, at least from a brand perspective, is the success of the FNB Junior Golf Tournament. And we saw young golfers interacting and playing and getting some skills as well from the pros who are there to just take them through the course and, also give them a bit of tips as well in terms of, what it takes to be a pro. Absolutely. And I believe that's really what was the heart of this year's tournament and what also just made it what made it the success that it was. Yeah. So yes, a majority or a bigger part of the tournament is of course the fact that we want to continue seeing golf develop. So also very important for us as a brand to see how we do that from grassroots. So the junior golf tournament, very important for us. And again, just also seeing the golfers come out. And I think, look, for us, we saw the rain, but what was very comforting as well, and Brandon, is how the golfers continue to practice through Monday, Tuesday in the rain. So I think for me, the biggest lesson as well was, commitment and dedication to the sport. Yeah. So that came out very clear. And again, as mentioned, golfers did rise to the challenge. And lastly, I think what I do want to just send a big shout out and a thank you to our partners for this year's FNB Eswatini Challenge. We did see a record-breaking 12 partners come on board. I'll mention just a few. We did have Oracle Group coming through, MTN Eswatini as well, Destiny Events, amongst the other partners, and of course our local media partners who played quite a critical role in, for one, ensuring that we have regular updates, the positioning of the challenge, but more than anything, rising to the challenge as well and braving the weather, coming through to support. So really a special shout out to all the local media houses who did partner with FNB Eswatini to ensure we rise above the challenge and host a stellar challenge that came to a close on Sunday yesterday.
Rising to the challenge is not easy. I mean, it sounds easy when we say it, but it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of determination. And I know in golf, I've always heard it. I have a few golfer friends who always say it's a different ball game when you play. And Brendan, you certainly rose to the challenge in real terms. Podium finish, number one amongst the local pros. Take me through that whole feeling. How did you feel being number one, hearing your name being called there? And take us through the performance as well.
So it means a lot. It means a lot. As a professional, this is obviously your profession. You go out there every day to practice, to sacrifice, to really put the work in to excel at this craft. So when you do manage to come out on top, it truly validates all the hours you put in, all the effort you make to be number one. So it really meant a lot for me to finish first. What really made it special was that obviously I was at home and representing the host nation. So to truly showcase my skills in front of my family, friends, the golfing community, our sponsors, their partners, it meant a lot. It meant a lot. FNB provides us with a great platform to compete with some of the greatest golfers, not just on the continent, but in the world. So that is also just as important for us to showcase our local talent and to truly showcase what Eswatini has to offer in terms of golfing talent.
Yeah, Sibu mentions that you almost hit a slippery slope because of the rain. I mean, take us through how that affects you, your game plan and your approach to the game. But seemingly, it didn't affect you much.
So the nice thing about golf is that with 100 players in the field, you know that a certain percentage of them, 20% of them, immediately, as soon as the weather starts looking terrible and the conditions are bad, are mentally not in the game. So the rest of us see that as an opportunity to climb the leaderboard. So when we did see the rain, it obviously puts a dampen on your sort of spirit, because maybe you'd been preparing in the sun and you'd been hoping for these optimum conditions. But you still got to go through the daily grind. You wake up at 6, it's rainy, windy, you got to put on your rain suits, get out there, see what the terrain has to offer, and make the most of it.
Yeah. Sibu, coming back to you, let's call him the winner of the tournament.
Yes.
He's not with us here. I mean, you are a winner as well. But his name, I believe, is Augustine. I don't want to butcher his name. I do not want to butcher his name. But he spoke about seeing the beauty of Eswatini as he was driving to the course, some of our, natural landscapes and everything.
Precisely.
So speak to us about, how this tournament feeds into our local tourism in such a great way.
Thank you for that. So definitely, and I think what I love the most is how there's also that appreciation, especially from the golfers that come from countries like South Africa and also just across the board. And what that does is it has a massive ripple effect to the economy of Eswatini, because there's a hive of activity across our hospitality industries, but also there's an overspill as well to our local retailers who also become a hive of activity. Sure. And also, we have a lot of local SMEs in and around Ezulwini also that sell wares that represent the culture and the kingdom of Eswatini. So we also see foot traffic going through towards those vendors as well. And that's always very telling of the importance of events like the FNB Eswatini Challenge, because beyond the dedication and commitment to developing the sport, there's also an economic overspill to the economy of Eswatini. And what that does is really we want to continue looking into how we pour into that growth. And I think as a brand, very important, because this is part of our shared prosperity as well, which speaks to how we give back value to the community, but beyond the community, how we give value back into the economic activity of Eswatini. So that was really heartwarming to see. And also, you'll recall this tournament is taking place at the Ezulwini Golf and Country Club. So also the staff at Ezulwini Golf and Country Club, very happy and very excited to host. So the most friendliest, and I think very... I want to go back to how the week started with the rains and the tournament taking place in Ezulwini. And Ezulwini is a translation for heaven, so it really felt like heaven hosting at Ezulwini. And also great working with the Ezulwini Golf and Country Club, but also we wouldn't have pulled off a challenge of the stature had we not partnered with the local Ezulwini Professional Golfers Association. So they played a critical and a pivotal role alongside the Eswatini Golfers Union, because we wouldn't have pulled off the junior golf challenge without them. So all of that has a ripple effect as well on the economy, because it speaks to all the creative support that we fund to pull this off in terms of the marketing, advertising, but also the grander hospitality that's required to pull off a tournament of the stature.
Look, going back to the FNB Eswatini Junior Golf Day, I would typically ask you this question, but I want to ask Brandon, because Brandon, a lot of Eswatini, according to my perspective anyway, when I conduct an eye study, join golf pretty late when they work in corporate and they feel the need to play golf now and network. But I think now Eswatini is waking up to just how important it is to invest in the sport, thanks to FNB who have done that. How do you feel to see an FNB Eswatini Junior Golf Day? How important is it to start young? You started young.
I did start young.
Yeah.
I was privileged to be coached by Johannes Lamini, Nobushe's dad. So in that sense, I was very privileged to have the opportunity from grassroots level to truly build the skill, develop an outcome of where I wanted the career to go, what I aspired to achieve. So it was very important. And I just want to echo how important the partnership with FNB has been, because initially they just held the professional tournament, which gave us something to work towards and a platform for us to showcase our talent. But now they've provided that final picture to the golfing community, but now they're seeding at grassroots level to build the next Eswatini superstar, to build the next golfing superstar. And it's very important for the juniors to be exposed not only to tournament conditions, but also to professionals and see that it can actually be a profession, it can actually be something that can sustain a family and an avenue for people to work and live from.
Congratulations, Brendan. Congratulations to you as well, Sibusile. That's Sibusile Lamini, Chief Marketing FNB Eswatini, and Brendan Rennie to my far right, who is the local first place pro in Eswatini. The FNB Eswatini Golf Challenge 2026 closes the curtain. It's going to be back next year with a banger, and I suppose 24 sponsors next year. That's my dream anyway. We mark the end of our conversation. Now we have Linda Master Dlamini on standby to talk all things Donate a Pair Foundation that took place in the Kusile region this past weekend. Stay with us.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.za or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
KBS Sports Updates na Linda Master Dlamini lapha e-studio. Linda ke bekaphumile kule mpelasonto labo FNB Eswatini Golf Challenge lesicetha ukukhuluma ngabo babonile the National Games labe khona kule mpelasonto babonile, and certainly naye lesifuna kucala ngayo lento ke esifunzeni isaseshiselwe into ukukhumbula evikini leliphelile ngelesihlanu ngelele bekahleli ina Nkosi Lenhle Makawos Masokisi Masuku longena ke ayingqondo behind the Donate a Pair soccer tournament lesiboneke kule mpelasonto enhlangano master ibe successful, a resounding success. Ibonile ukuthi DPM even beyond lokuyiloncha uphinze wehla wale dance yeshiselwe. Just take us through the whole tournament.
I think njoba usho ukuthi ngikuthoba ngibingelele mbukelo Eswatini TV loyal viewer. Njoba usho mnguni ukuthi ibe success I donate per Legends Cup le sukunyiswa nguye Makaos. I think yangithinza indlela la ekhuluma ngayo ukuthi yasukuma kanjani le donate per campaign. Bebathi icocela nje nabantu babakhe bopupu nawawa bakhuluma indzaba yekuyomixa tingubo badonate lebamvu labambofu kwase sekuthiwa kulomnyaka asesikolekeni ticathulo tayo le labahluphekile bantu babesikolo kwase kuthi hayi ngalo seMakaosi ukakhulu la ebholeni for a very long time he's been with ibola from his days as a chairman of supporters committee ahamba ne national team South wonke Africa wonke so waqala ke yona le Legends Cup lapho khona bekudlala ema social legends noma ema retired soccer players sibonile nguni ngemgcibelo I think ngamtshela naye in fact isasikhuluma kuleli viki leliphelile athi hey kanti lebe sekulontsha nawe because the very first time nje akhuluma ngayo asibidile lapha ezulwini everyone was like donate show Legends Cup but it's itena se incumbi yalama organizations eta ajoyina afaka ticathulo wonke umuntu waseSoweto kwase kuthi ekugcineni liphini landvunankulu umhlonishwa Kusile dladla lasenalo lishayela speaker sekugcina la ilisukumisa ngalokho semthethweni laphinze labakhona Saturday laphinze lawavusela ema teams labeka khona ngiyakhumbula nje ukuthi lapha bekunika Shali Masters nakaya lapha egroundini kunesicaca sasemathendele inhlangano ivusela cishe onke lamaqembu lawo abatshela njoba simbona lapha ekhasi groundini mayor olidolobha lasenhlangano Smiling wakamsibi I used to play with him but I think the teams afikile ngedinombolo icishe bengingakagazi ukuthi bamvu bangaphuma babe kangaka ema teams aphume abe kangaka.
I mean just appreciating the visuals uzuwaphinzwa ikhahlela umgabatseli lapha liphini landvunankulu kanzi liyakhona ukudlala ibhola encenye Makaos nangabe uyabukela next year kuma Legends sicela kubona bomake thina enhlane siyacela mbutho omkhulu ngiyathi ukuthi you can make it happen ngaba kuhle kakhulu ukubona bomake badlala ibhola nabo ema Legends but Master, let's talk about the visuals. Do we have results nyalo?
Gashali Masters Gashali Masters kube ngiyema eventual winners bashaya imbabane Golden Booters Gashali Masters I think idlalelwa even school Choko wakasibanze former mbabane
lo Gashali ngimuphi lo is it
Gashali la ngaseNgwane Park la Gashali
ngibhlungu man ngibhlungu inhlito yami ifuna ukuthi team yale
seshiselweni unfortunately ema teams la njengabo sicaca akhale phasi kunalenye team futhi ile ngala kumahamba madutane nje nalapha kuboMakaos nabo basheshe baphuma but I think ngile competition more than anything
wabedlala naMakaos
no ithengiswe ithi team ya dutane nakubo mshiya lo yes ya kuleto ganga lethu but nje I think mina lokungithokodise kakhulu we know ukuthi ema players la bekadlala last season like the likes of Bo Felix bangavumeleki ukuthi bayedlala but awudlala ku next edition I think next year itaba bigger and better ngelendlela lengibone ngayo mina and le competition itawenza kakhulu ngiyafisa ukuthi Eswatini TV next year iphume ne team njengoba usho ukuthi nema ladies ngenteka abekhona kube ne soccer team yabobhoti kube ne female soccer team ladies soccer team or who knows maybe
basakati bonke lo manje because Eswatini TV ma legend master ning 3 we are still young
no
ning 3 ma legend
bakhona
Thina sekuma 20s.
Bakhona labamshiya
In 3 let Kusile master. No. Jokes aside, master, what a beautiful tournament. Congratulations kakhulu kuyo yonke i-team le sebenda naye eMakaosi from 7 lomhle kangaka. I think lokukhulu kakhulu the slogan sabo bathini shoes are their currency. Angifuni lokuyona but nje iveta lo ukuthi vele lokukhulu kakhulu. Let's shoot them. Yes. Lokukhulu kakhulu ngilokusita lesive seMaswati and master nawubuka lethi cathulo endlala betithi nengingakhona eMaswati atawugcoka.
No kakhulu uyathi ukuthi emgoni wathi naka isukumisa Makaosi ngamtshela ngathi uyathi ushaye enhlitweni sisuke ebusika nje nyalo kunebamfana labe bededi ngwabelo baya esikolweni ngaphandle kweticathulo noma ngabe tikhona thola ukuthi letinye setivete ibobhozo la ngaphambili kubhlungu kakhulu mina ngifunza emakhaya ngihlala ngisho ngifunza emakhaya ngiyakwati kubona umntwana esikolo ayesikolweni angagcoki icathulo afike ethishela futhi ngetulu kwakukonke afika amshaye ngeliswati enyaweni so inhluti yami nakwenteka lokho nje uthinza lengekhathi enhlitweni
sitayilungisa ke naleya choko ngimtayela ngomkhawa wami ngifunze naye Evelyn Berry bekalisinyalanga ukuthi uthi ngimtsala bekalisinyalanga na form 5 benga form 1 ngiyamanga lokusodlala team yakubongwane park lo muntu wethu leshisele
nokumele sikulungise ukuthi lama legends aseshiselweni I think bochoko bomsimisi ncanywa bo Trevor Khumalo nalekhaya ukhona Thulani Ngeshi bakhona bobonga I think if maybe vele ishiselweni bathi eNatal bathi hlangana Zulu sithi yithi abantu
I'm telling you lapho kum national team ema legends master tell me other names labeka khona lapha kulama legends lesingathi nje ama fans vele atawuba excited awathi lawo magama abo even going into next year Bowanda Nhleko when out playing
yes Bowanda Nhleko bebakhona unfortunately beka registered last season kuManzini Wanderers bekakhona nje just kutobukela but bo Brian Mohammed bebakhona
Felix story
yes same like Lisa Felix Brian Mohammed beyakhona former goalkeeper umbelebele Jomo Cosmos I think baneng bozwela imlilo Nxumalo Royal Leopard bomzoro mzoro wakwadlalela umbelebele back in the days so I think bakhona bebaphumile babanyenti kakhulu the list is endless
excited to see ukuthi umnyaka lotaka utasiphathelani kule tournament lena but again sifuna nje kubonga kakhulu umsebenzi lomuhle master ngiyafuna singavali we have about 4 minutes ukuthi singene kuma national games labe khona kule mphela sona nasithi national games vele bekuphekwe ngagalaza wena volleyball basketball sibhakela konke take us through it
yes ngalesihlanu indvuna yemidlalo umhlonishwa bonga nzima isukumisa ngalokusemthethweni lemidlalo ayivula sorry because wayisukumisa last month ayivula ngalokusemthethweni lapha eNyuvesi yaseKwaLuseni beyidlala ke lemidlalo kusukela ngemgcibelo kaSomhlolo eMatubane Eswatini beyikhona Lesotho beyikhona Chelsea beyikhona umdlalo onesibhakela bebakhona khona kaSomhlolo bebasethe nje ring khona lapha kaSomhlolo Africa beyikhona ivolleyball ikhona ibasketball ikhona itaekwondo then enjabulweni beyikhona umdlalo wokubhukusha ngicabanga ukuthi onke lama lesengwabalile le temidlalo lesengitibalile ngekwehlukana kwato eMaswati edominated ka swimming I think Demento Souza is proving to be one of the best lesinaye local badominated ka swimming ematubaneni boyoliswa kaSimelani she's a female athlete bekase Mauritius not so long ago badominated so ngicabanga ukuthi lama games lawa ngiyatlo ukuthi bathi kulomnyaka lotaka bafuna aye eLesotho mine if kuma national games akabe annually abe lakhaya iLesotho itawabamba because soliya wabamba asihambe sivakashi as a guest but aqhubeka ama national games lapha eSwatini. Kunebadlali ka basketball nje, there's a player from Mahamba lo dlale kahle kakhulu. Everyone was impressed ukuthi udlala kahle kanjena, even the president ushito ukuthi ufuna etengalamba bana ngamana ahlale naye. Ka volleyball kunebadlali bakubo kaphunga labadlalile labadlale kahle. So uyabona ukuthi these national games avethe talenta lingasho ukuthi nasinebantwana basemakhaya balitholile lithuba.
58 minutes after 7, Master kulela Clement president lekuthi umfana waseMahamba abuya odlala eMbabane ngiyalihlaba lelo. Ngithi akubuye i-league ikhona team yasenhlangano itawukhona kutawudlala nayo. No. Ayibuye i-league mina ngikhule ngidlala enhlangano.
Ngicela correcta lo. Akabuyeli kutodlala. Kutaba ne camp for national team. So uphikiwe for ukuthi abe sedude. Yes.
Okay, but i-league bathini Master ngoba niyakhuluma. 6 years without league.
Yeah, that's bad. Ngiko lesolo sikhala ngako ukuthi i-league luckily ungathi khona sponsor lesivuthwako ka basketball for yona le league ngenteka masinyane isukunyiswa.
Lo masinyane kungenteka kube ngilonyaka.
Yes.
We are praying ukuthi i-league yabuya. This year basketball hasn't had a league in 6 years. Lokuhle ukuthi we are celebrating the 3-on-3 lebekhona this past weekend. Congratulations to Smunye, by the way, who were the eventual champs kulolo hlangothi, and congratulations to this young man from Mahamba. Shiselweni Master la khuluma ngaye lota ungenela ke camp ye national team. And congratulations to litiko letemidlalo and all lama partners labekhona kulama Eswatini national games. Beautiful weekend indeed of sports. Siyabonga kuhlala nathi eluhlelweni lomuhla, sethembe ukuthi indaba nelusuku loluhle nalo lubusekile nisale kahle.